Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This story was posted by a user named Hot Mess Mom in the AITAH subreddit. The post is titled, "Would I be the asshole if I told my husband he has to choose between me and his friend? I've been with my husband for 17 years. We have kids, a dog, and we used to own a business together. He has this friend who happens to be his little brother's ex-girlfriend. She's been in and out of our lives since she broke up with my brother-in-law over 12 years ago. Over the last 4 years or so, she's been constantly messaging my husband. She never sends me a message unless my husband tells her that he's not home and she's on her way. She's engaged and has a baby on the way. Both my husband and his friend say they have a brother-sister relationship. My kids don't like her or her child. Her child is 7 years younger than our youngest. They feel like they have to babysit her when she comes over. This is what bothers me about their relationship. I am never included in their conversations online, even when she invites herself over. My husband once told his brother that he thought she was attractive and that if he were younger and single, he would try to date her. My brother-in-law sent me a message to warn me about their relationship. When I spoke to my husband about it, he laughed it off and told me his brother was just jealous. During an intimate moment, my husband told me that she was the only person he would ever ask to do a threesome with us. This was never discussed between us before, not even the option of a threesome. When she comes over, she barely speaks directly to me. She always addresses my husband. I have to interrupt the conversation for her to even acknowledge me. I'm tired of feeling like the third wheel in their friendship. Last year, he gave me one of his old cell phones because mine had broken. He hadn't logged out of his Messenger account, so I used it to my advantage and read their messages at the time. He admitted to her that he had told his brother that she was attractive and that if he were younger and single, he would date her. He then told her I wasn't home when he said that, and I didn't know exactly what he had said. Ever since then, I feel like they both occasionally disrespect me in their conversations. All he does is talk about her, often. He never makes her wait when she texts him, yet sometimes when I text him, it takes him half an hour to respond. So tell me, would I be the asshole if I told him that he had to choose between his relationship with me and his friend? Edit. I have posted an update on my profile. Thanks to everyone for the responses. Seriously, without your encouragement, I wouldn't have had the courage to talk to him. User JM Legend said NTA. Hand him the book Not Just Friends and tell him his emotional and possibly physical affair is over. If he refuses, you'll just take half of everything in the divorce and he can choose her over his family and kids. Tell him there is no option where their friendship continues and the marriage remains intact. Remind him that his kids don't like her or her child. User Your Average Plebeian said, he'll tell you he chooses you, but he won't mean it. He's not being considerate of you in your own home. You've tried to talk about it and he's brushed it off. At this point, you need to become selfish. You have to choose yourself, whether that means gray rocking, adopting roommate behavior, pursuing a trial separation, or going straight to divorce is up to you. But he isn't going to choose you over his friend or her over you. He's going to choose his own comfort because his back isn't yet against the wall. I hope you have some form of support network to help you through this mess. Update. We've had several talks over the last few weeks. At first, he wanted to work things out. In fact, he says he never meant any of it and keeps apologizing for breaking my trust. Now, however, he's being a complete jerk. Then he flipped and decided that since I don't want to work on things, he left for his brother's house. He hasn't seen our kids in the past month. He talks to them on the phone, but that's about it. So far, to irritate me, he's cut off mine and the kids' cell phone service, so I had to get new SIM cards for us because otherwise we wouldn't have phones. He's refused to pay anything for school supplies and uniforms. He doesn't want to give me a dime. He hasn't done his taxes this year, which means I won't receive any family allowance, cutting $2K a month from my budget. I was able to sign the kids up for a local school supply distribution. The only thing they don't help with is the uniforms. Thankfully, only my older two need uniforms. My oldest has some old uniform shirts that will be passed down to my other child, which means my daughter will be wearing her older brother's shirts. She's really annoyed by the situation and has been giving me a lot of attitude about it, but at the moment I can't afford t-shirts at $35 each with the school's logo on them, so she has no choice. Unfortunately, uniforms are mandatory. I spoke to his friend as well. I told her everything that was going on and she blames herself for what happened. Personally, I think she was just putting on a show. I haven't spoken to her since. If you ask me, I still think she's a hypocrite. Finances are tough, I barely make ends meet. Thankfully, food banks exist because once rent is paid, I hardly have anything left over for bills and groceries. I still haven't been able to get money for a lawyer yet. I've tried taking loans, but that didn't go well. I've also tried borrowing from others, and that hasn't worked either. Now it feels like we're in a state of Cold War. He refuses to talk to me for the time being. I guess he'll come around eventually. For the kids' sake, I hope so. I feel like I'm drowning in all this mess sometimes. Edit, a lot of comments have come up on this post. I didn't expect as many responses. I've read as many as I can and will address a few points. He's gone to stay with his other brother, the second one in the family. My STBX is the oldest of 3. It's the youngest of his brothers who told me what's going on. I filed my taxes back in March. He was supposed to file his a few weeks later. At that time, everything was good between us and I listed him as my spouse because that's what we've been doing for the past 17 years since we got married. I have to file my next taxes as single. The school uniforms. My oldest kids are in high school, a public high school. Uniforms are mandatory across the school board. I've contacted the school and unfortunately, they don't have any low-cost uniforms. They suggested I look at local thrift shops. They do have an emergency budget for uniforms, but only if you have recently arrived in the country. I've contacted several lawyers. I know what my rights are. I know how much it's going to cost me to take him to court. He's quit his job, so suing him for alimony or whatever is going to be tough. I don't qualify for legal aid based on previous taxes. It takes at least 90 days of him being out of the family home for me to do anything against him. He's been gone for less than 2 weeks. As for family, I have been no contact with my parents since 2010. They do not know my younger children, nor do they care. I won't be getting into the reasons why here. His family has always been low contact with us. His parents have never liked me, and his brother who he's staying with doesn't like me either. Edit 2. For those saying that the timeline doesn't add up, I left with my 4 kids at the beginning of July to visit my elderly grandmother who doesn't live in the same province as us. It was supposed to give us breathing time to try and work things out. When I came back with the kids, he was already gone. When I was at my grandmother's, he would barely talk to me but would talk to our kids via Messenger. My trip with the kids to my grandmother's is a yearly trip. I didn't know that he would go from wanting to stay and work things out to leaving. I was blindsided by that. Edit 3, I do have a PayPal account. I'm not going to start making posts on Facebook blasting him. I'm not setting up a GoFundMe either. I don't want him finding anything out. I don't want to get charged with trying to ruin his reputation either. I don't want him to have anything to use against me in court. Final update. A lot of people have asked me for an update over the past few months. So here it is. I feel like I'm coming apart at the seams. I'm trying to hold it together as best as I can for the kids. My ex is being a complete jerk. He has yet to sign the divorce papers or pay child support. I was able to find a lawyer who would help me pro bono, but the delays are long. I was able to get back my CCTB, which is a little less than what I was already getting. In January, my lawyer will be filing so I can get child support, but with him working cash-only jobs, that might be hard to obtain. As for those who said that he would end up with her, you were all right. I hate to say it. She's posting all over Facebook about how she's so in love and how she's found the one and how she loves her blended family. Yet my ex hasn't taken the kids at all. The very few times he's seen them was to pick up his mail. Not once has he offered to take the kids or help pay for anything. Yet he and his hoe take weekend vacations with both her kids. He answers us whenever he wants to and blames me regularly because our kids don't want anything to do with him anymore. I swear my ex is trying to make my life a living hell. My life is a mess. I work 2 jobs, one full-time and the other part-time, and I'm still not making it. I'm grateful that my oldest babysits the younger kids. I don't know how I would be able to hold 2 jobs otherwise. I was able to apply for a Christmas food basket, but the organization helping me warned me that with the high demand they can only do so much. I see Christmas coming and I know I can't afford gifts for the kids. I'm at the point where I'm looking for odd jobs that I can do during my spare time. I really wish that I could offer my kids a decent Christmas. After the year we've had, I just wish that they can feel happiness again. I know for a fact that we won't be seeing much family over the holidays either, so it's not like I can depend on their help. I just wanted to say thank you to those who have been there for the kids and me. You know who you are. I've been feeling depressed lately. I know this post is all over the place, but it's at least an update. User CGM said, "Stay strong. I know it's tough and it's going to be for a while, but you'll look back and be proud of leaving a worthless man like him. It sounds like you have a good lawyer, so remember to document everything. As for their relationship, I'll be shocked if it lasts long term. The newness will wear off eventually, and real life will settle in. To this, OP said, I secretly wish that this would happen just so I can turn him down. Knowing how he is, he's not one to live alone. He'll want to get into a relationship quickly if it ends with her, especially knowing the fact that he had been single for only about 2 weeks before we started dating. It wouldn't surprise me. I'm going for full custody and child support. He could get supervised visitations. His lack of empathy has pushed me to the edge. Once I drag his sorry ass to court, he won't have anything left if I have a say in how it goes. User Remarkable Sock said, I wish the best for you and your family. Things are difficult right now, but don't worry, they will get better, and you will see that your life will be much better without him. As for him, from my experience, he might even stay with her, but after a while, he will definitely want to get back with you. It's always the same pattern, just keep the kids away from him. This next post was made in the AIO subreddit by a user named Past Professional. The post is titled, My fiance asked me to not wear white at our wedding. I have been with my fiance John since high school. We dated and broke up because his mother Debbie convinced him we were too young to be in love. We broke up and went to college. During my sophomore year, we started talking on social media again. He apologized and said he missed me, and we got back together. Cue the waterworks. Debbie literally cried the first time she saw that we were back together and told John that I had done witchcraft on him. I've always respected Debbie out of respect for my mother and upbringing. I was not raised to go back and forth with my elders, but she definitely abuses that. Since John and I decided to get back together, she has tried to hook him up with women from her church, her job, and even asks her friends for their daughters to give it a shot. John denies all of them, but Debbie says that I'm controlling. John has told her to stop, but not in a way that I feel she understands. Anyway, 3 months ago, John proposed. Debbie didn't come to the engagement party. Cool. She didn't come to the family dinner we had so both sides could meet. Cool. John's dad came and apologized for his ex's behavior. I told him not to worry about it. The problems really began when John decided to confront his mother about how she's behaving toward our engagement. This turned on a light bulb in his brain, as he's always tried to ignore it and tell me to do the same. She gave him a sob story about how she got pregnant with him before marriage and never really got to have a wedding, which is triggering her. He asked her what she needed to feel comfortable, and she responded that if she wore white and I wore soft pink or lavender, she would feel comfortable. For some reason, my fiance thought this was a fair compromise. He also said that his mom could walk me down the aisle so she could get her moment in her dress. I told him absolutely not, and we got into an argument about it. I told him that it's insane that he would argue with me to defend his mom's honor, but wouldn't do the same for me. He accused me of being petty and selfish. It was bad. We both agreed to cool off, but given how heated it got, I could tell we were both close to calling it off. Now, we're in a weird space. I love John, but now see how much he lets her impact our lives. I can just imagine her sitting at home with this evil grin, knowing she's ruining my relationship with John while he's just putty in her hands. I think I should just call off the wedding. Am I the jerk, or is it just a color? User Ducky's mama said, this isn't about a dress color, it's about control and possibly a dash of humiliation. Do you really want to put down roots and start a family with a man who is willing to bend over backward for his mother to the point of telling his bride she can't wear white while his mom gets the glory? I shudder to think what having kids with this man would look like. A deleted user said, clinical psychologist with family therapy experience here. I can say this because it's anonymous. Run. Staying with him will mean a long-term war that you cannot win. Update. Hey everyone, I'm not sure if this is the update everyone wanted, but here's what happened since my last post. I laid out a couple of talking points that I couldn't articulate due to my anger. I met up with John after work at home. We spoke about everything and made plans to talk to his mother. John came home feeling remorseful. He told me he was anxious about the situation and mentioned that he had brought it up to a co-worker/friend who expressed concern about how I don't want to compromise. Apparently, his friend went off on him for being cringy. This angered me. So when I say it's a problem, it's okay, but when another man tells him, suddenly he sees the other side. I brought up my talking points. First, I addressed how easily he is manipulated. This was proven when I pointed out that he listens to whatever another man says before considering his partner's feelings. Even though his friend agreed with me, it hurt that he didn't listen to me. Next, I discussed how his mother went out of her way to break us up with this silly request. He was much more open to this theory now that he understood how cringeworthy it looked to tell someone else about our situation. I compared it to a father removing a bride's wedding garter. He got the point. I also mentioned how he agreed to his mom's outrageous request before even talking to me. He claimed he didn't. He said he told her he would see how I felt about it and then just brought it up to me. I asked why he didn't see that having his mother walk down the aisle on his wedding day was extremely creepy. He said it was just a dress in his eyes and that he didn't want his mom to miss the wedding. I told him there would be no wedding if he didn't straighten up. He said he understood. I pointed out how blatantly obvious it was that she hates me. She didn't even ask to wear white alongside me, but she acts as if I'm some impure whore by suggesting I shouldn't wear white at all. He said he didn't see it that way. He just knew she hadn't been showing up because she said seeing me in white hurts her. So I asked him if he didn't hear his own mom saying she wants to be the bride herself and can't stand it being me. It finally seemed like a light bulb went off in his head. I asked him what role she would play in our wedding, childbirth, Mother's Day, and everything else to come. Would I always come in second place? He assured me I wouldn't and acknowledged how badly he had messed up. He was just trying to keep the peace. I asked if keeping her happy meant making me miserable. I refused to live my life this way. He agreed and said he was sorry. He wouldn't want me to be miserable. We don't have children yet, but we created a plan for dealing with any major milestones moving forward. She won't be there for anything unless I'm comfortable with it, and I won't be unless she does a complete 180. I asked what his mom said to change his mind, and you all guessed it, she cried. She cried about how her baby was being taken away from her, how she never got her own wedding, how his dad left her, and she felt alone with no one else. She said she felt sick and just wanted to experience a real wedding before she dies. I told him that if that was enough to manipulate him, what's to say he won't turn on me again? He said his friend and dad talked sense into him about how he was going to lose me. I told him today was the last straw for me. He had to do 4 things to keep me engaged to him if he even cared to. Go low contact with his mom and do not let her make any decisions on our wedding, which will be postponed another year to see if he actually sticks to his word. He has to go to counseling, individually and couples counseling. He has to speak to his mom with me present about her behavior toward me because every time he goes by himself, he comes back with a reason why he left it alone. He must create strong boundaries and learn to uphold them. He agreed. Then came the bad part. I showed him the post. I felt terrible as he read everyone rip him to shreds in the comments. I could see how uncomfortable he was as he read how much of a mama's boy he was and other things about his mom. He was hurt that I agreed in some comments that I should leave. He read for a few minutes until he saw someone call him a spineless "see you next Tuesday" and then gave my phone back. He said it was really harsh, but I had to show him how crazy the situation sounded, even if it was just to keep the peace on a surface level. Him reading the post was icing on the cake. He said he saw everyone telling me to leave and his heart physically started hurting, knowing that he deserved it. We called his dad, John's dad, Dan, whom I'll name since he's a big part of this update, also read John the riot act again. He was relieved John decided to get his act together. We agreed to go to Deb's house tomorrow with Dan and John's aunt. My dad is tagging along. John has said he will tell his mother that she can't, under any circumstances, make our wedding about her. He also said if she does cry or try to guilt trip him, he will tell her he's going no contact. I feel terrible, as getting a man to stop talking to his mother isn't something I ever thought I would want. I doubt Debbie will come around, especially not tomorrow with all of us against her. I don't know if John will backtrack as soon as he gets there. I've explained that if he doesn't grow a spine, I'm leaving. He either can marry me or marry his mom, but that's my ultimatum. He said he chooses me. We'll see, I guess. This all should make me happy, but I still feel uneasy. Final update. Some people reached out to disrespect me. I honestly don't care if you don't believe my story or find me annoying, but messaging me to call me names, being disrespectful, and saying I shouldn't wear white to my own wedding is classless. I won't respond, and I genuinely hope you all get the help you need for whatever trauma makes you that angry. To all the people who have reached out with positive vibes and advice, thank you so much, you cutie patooties. Anyway, John and I met up after work and we headed to pick up Dan. John's aunt couldn't make it. My dad was meeting us there. I had really bad anxiety. I told Dan and Dad they should give us a few minutes before knocking so she doesn't feel ambushed. They agreed. Here's the part everyone was waiting for. We arrived at Debbie's house. My heart felt like I was going up the world's tallest roller coaster slowly. John was quiet. When we got there, he greeted her with a firm but respectful, "Hey mom." We sat down and John told her we came to talk to her. She asked, "What's wrong?" John got right into it. He bluntly told her that her actions toward me for years have been petty. Her not showing up for any of our wedding events was unacceptable to him. He flat out asked her why she had a problem with me. I genuinely thought he was going to start with the dress situation, but he went for the root of it all. Debbie acted like she had no idea what he was talking about. Although she has actively tried to get him to cheat on me or leave me for other women, in that moment she was shocked and claimed she didn't know where this was coming from. She said she had no problems with me and loved me like a daughter. She looked at me as if she expected me to talk, but as I mentioned before, I wanted to see what John had to say. He asked her to be honest and named all the times he recalled that she insulted me both to my face and behind my back. He mentioned that she also tells him he could do better every time I'm not around. Deb was livid. She genuinely couldn't believe he called her out like that. She started going off on him, calling him disrespectful, and saying he was disrespecting his own mother for an outsider. She kept saying, "I know she made you do this. I know she's the one making you disrespect me like this." John was trying to reason with her and get her to calm down. I texted Dan and my dad to come in. Once they were inside, Deb became a different person. She was startled because she wasn't expecting them, and then all of the things she had just said went out the window. She turned to Dan and my dad and claimed John walked in and just started yelling at her because of me. My dad looked at me and I shook my head no. Once Dan and Dad got in, everything calmed down for a little while. She went back to denying that she didn't like me. They all told her it was obvious that the dress request was shameful of her. She immediately replied that it was shameful that I wouldn't let her son spend time with her. John said that wasn't true. At this point, I was burning inside. I wanted to correct all of her inaccuracies, but I remained quiet. John asked her what the real issue with me was. Deb started saying how she knew I was going to be an issue since we were in high school. She claimed that once John got with me, his grades started dropping and he stopped making time for family. She said he once didn't show up to celebrate Mother's Day with her a few times because of my birthday. She claimed that once we got back together, he forgot about her completely because I made him abandon her. She said the fact that we had the engagement party without checking how she felt about it was wrong and all the evidence she needed to see what kind of woman I am. My dad pointed out that she didn't pay for the engagement dinner, so she had no input on it. Dan asked her what she was thinking, asking to wear white at our wedding and why she was so hungry for attention. Her face turned red and she went off. She told Dan that maybe if he had properly married her and given her a real wedding, she wouldn't feel left out. Dan straight up called bullshit and said that she didn't want to have a real wedding, even though he tried to convince her. The reason was that her mother told her pregnant brides are tacky. She started crying. My dad got everyone to calm down. John finally spoke again and told his mom that he can't keep defending her when she won't even try to respect me. For his sanity and our relationship, he's going low contact. Deb kept crying and said that John can't leave her for dead. She's the only mother he'll ever have. Mothers are forever, wives are not. She claimed I'm not even his wife yet, and I'm already tearing apart the family. He kept going. He told her that we are going to get married. If she can't respect me or stop crossing boundaries, she'll get cut off completely. His visits are dropping to once every 2 weeks and she needs to call less. She started going off. She knew it. I'm doing something to him. What did I do to her son? She called me a manipulator and a problem. She told my dad he raised a demon. My dad shot back at her to watch her mouth, but she kept screaming and then started hyperventilating. She was gripping John's arm, saying she couldn't breathe. This was when I said to myself, oh no, he's about to flip-flop. He looked at me and I knew he knew what I was thinking. John got her a cup of water, then asked his dad to make sure his mom was okay and asked my dad to take Dan home. Dan and Dad agreed and his mom started crying louder. She literally screamed, "I can't breathe," as we walked out so he could hear her. I felt terrible and finally spoke. I told John I was sorry and understood if he felt bad. He said he knew she was faking it, but his instincts wanted to run over and make sure she was okay. I asked if he was okay and he said no, but looked really sad about it. My dad walked out behind us. He has never seen this side of Deb, and neither have I. She's always been catty or shady toward me, but this was insane. My dad straight up told John that his mom needed help with her mental health. John said he was going to talk to his aunt about getting her help. We went home and John cried. He said he cried because he watched his mom villainize him and tell others that he just walked in and verbally abused her. He said it reminded him of the times he would fight with his dad because his mom would say Dan would just come home from work and yell at her for no reason. I guess it was deja vu for him. He was silent after she said that, so I believe it struck a nerve with him. He decided to go no contact for now. Before we went to Deb's house, I called a couple of counselors in our area to check availability, and our first couples therapy session is next month. It's a little while away. He called his provider today to check for a therapist within his insurance and got an appointment for himself on the 23rd. The ball is rolling and John seems like he's on the same page as me. I know this is killing him though. Dan called us and let us know he got Deb to calm down. He said he spoke to her as best as he could about how she was harming her own relationship with John, but she didn't want to hear it. Thank you, Reddit. I really didn't expect this to blow up like it did. The advice and well wishes I received were overwhelming in a great way. While I should be happy, something about it all just makes me feel down. I hope that Debbie gets better and that we can one day have her in our lives. Something about that comment regarding her mother made me hurt for little Debbie. Hopefully one day I'll get to hear her stories. Now I'm going back to my regular life and hopefully I won't ever have a dramatic update for you guys again. This last post was made in the AITAH subreddit by a user named Commercial Tone. The post is titled AITAH for leaving my Bumble date stranded at a restaurant after she admitted she was going to her guy best friend's place after the date. A couple of months ago, I matched with Anna on Bumble. I thought we vibed really well. She had a nice and funny demeanor, and we had lots of engaging conversations on FaceTime. We set up our first dinner date last week. I proposed a really nice restaurant that was somewhat far from where we lived, but I really wanted to treat Anna because I thought she was special. Anna asked if I could pick her up and then drop her off at her best friend's place after the date. I didn't mind at all. Anna mentioned she had a movie night with her best friend. I picked Anna up and we went to the restaurant. The date went better than expected. We vibed really well. Anna also had drinks since I was the designated driver. However, right at the end of the date, Anna asked if I would drop her off at Josh's. I was initially confused and then realized that Josh was her guy best friend. Anna instantly recognized what she had said and it became awkward. She apologized and I told her there was no reason to apologize. I was just curious about who Josh was, so I asked Anna and she explained that he was her guy best friend and that they occasionally have movie nights together. Anna said she wanted to be honest with me because she really liked me and saw a future with me. She admitted that they sometimes make out during these movie nights, but it doesn't go further than that. I appreciated Anna's honesty, but this whole situation felt like a huge gut punch. I may have been emotional, but I just couldn't continue. I told Anna to ask Josh to pick her up instead, paid for my portion of the dinner, and left. Anna looked really sad when I ended the date and walked away. Later, I felt guilty about it and called my sister to ask if what I had done was right. My sister said I shouldn't have left Anna stranded at the restaurant, especially after she had been so sweet and honest with me. I explained to my sister how I could be expected to take Anna out for a fancy dinner and then drop her off at her guy best friend's house where she would then make out with him. I still had enough self-respect not to do that. Update. I appreciate all the comments and different opinions on my previous post. However, at the end of the day, the reason I posted it was that I felt guilty about what I did and I agreed more with the comments stating that what I did was wrong. My sister has never once given me bad advice in life and I think her assessment was right this time too. Since I left Anna at the restaurant last week, she texted me a couple of times, but I just ignored those messages. A couple of hours ago, I opened the messages and was somewhat surprised. Instead of lashing out at me, she apologized again and said she was willing to stop seeing Josh if it meant we could continue our relationship. She mentioned that after the dinner, she took an Uber back home and didn't go to Josh's. I texted Anna that there was no reason to apologize and that I shouldn't have left her stranded at the restaurant. I also should have paid for her meal since I was the one who invited her to the expensive restaurant. I asked Anna for her Venmo, but she said she didn't care about the money and asked if we could continue our relationship. However, I didn't have the same feelings for Anna anymore, so I texted her up front that I didn't think we were compatible and that I didn't want to continue this. We chatted a bit more and Anna was very respectful of my decision but admitted she was sad. I also acknowledged that it was tough, but it's best for everyone that this doesn't continue further. That was the final text, and I definitely think there are valuable lessons learned from this entire experience. Thank you all for your input. User Huge Ad said, the problem was matching a couple of months ago and then not setting up a first date until last week. That's how you end up building the other person up in your head through texts and FaceTimes, getting way too fancy of a date for someone you've never even met, and then feeling a lot more committed than you actually are. If you meet through an app, move to face as soon as possible. User Screechy Pete said, either she's going to learn from this and stop seeing other guys when she starts catching feelings for someone, or this will result in her hiding it from the next guy better. I hope it's the first one, but it could go either way. Sometimes I don't have a lot of faith in humanity.